Today on Cruisin'.
Actually, I bought the motor as a crapshoot. I didn't know.
I like the fins. I was going for a 59 at first until I saw one, but I really like the refined look of the 60.
In fact, there's probably a half a dozen cars here.
Even for an ambulance, it would have been slow.
One thing, it doesn't come with a wife, and I need one of those. What we have here is a 1948 Ford that has been totally redone from the ground up. A lot of the 48 functions and things are still there, and a lot of them aren't there. The engine's been replaced.
Now you said the engine, what's in it now?
What's in it now is a 327 Chevy engine and a racing cam.
Racing cam? Racing cam?
Yes,
Do you race it?
No, not as long as I'm sober.
So what is the color scheme? This is quite stunning.
Okay, the color scheme is it's white and red, and it's got cartoon characters inside and outside, and these are characters from the 50s.
And why the cartoon characters?
That's the theme of it, and it just sort of went with the truck.
And the stuff that you've done, what have you done?
So far, I drove it, and I drank beer in it. No, not really. I drove it, waxed it up, and that was about all.
How's it ride?
It runs really good. I mean, it's quick. It's not a race truck, but it is very quick, though.
Have you always liked trucks?
No, not really a truck guy. But this truck here, I just really loved it. Everything about it. One thing, it doesn't come with a wife, and I need one of those.
We have a 1981 DeLorean. It is serial number 1434, which means it was 934th to come off the line in Ireland.
Now this is a pretty rare car.
Yes, there were only 9,080 that were made, and it's estimated there's 6,000 that are still drivable or restorable.
Now you're a pretty tall guy, and this is a pretty small car.
Yeah, it's not too bad. You fall into it. Getting out's a little difficult, but John DeLorean was 6'4", so there's plenty of leg room. But after a couple hours driving, your feet are falling asleep, so.
Now the windows aren't exactly standard.
No, they're very small. It's just maybe a foot square if you were to make it square, and that's it. So you don't want to drive these in the summer if you don't have air conditioning.
And the engine compartment isn't exactly huge.
No, it's not very big. The engine itself isn't all that big. It's only a 2.8 liter PRV, Peugeot Renault Volvo Venture.
So the engine have a lot of oomph to it?
No, 130 horse was standard. They did have an option at some dealers, I believe, for turbochargers after the fact. I have a Honda Odyssey that would blow this thing away.
And how's the ride?
It's stiff. It's very stiff. I upgraded the suspension. It's supposed to be a sports car, so you feel every bump.
Have you always wanted one of these?
Yes, wanted one since I was 13. I am old enough to remember before the movie. And this one came available in DeLorean of Florida's franchise dealership in Orlando, and I bought it sight unseen.
Now the fuel, to put gas in it, kind of different.
Yes, the fuel tank is basically right under this area, and this is called the gas flap. This is only on the earlier models, along with these grooves on the hood, because stamping the dies was difficult on stainless steel. So to save their dies, they got rid of these and got rid of the gas flap. So later model cars, later production cars, I should say, have to open the whole hood to put gas in.
What do you like the most about owning this car?
The genuine smiles you get when you drive down the street or a parade. I did the Hall of Fame parade in Canton last year, and there were just so many people that generally just lit up, and it's just nice because people, you know, they associate it with the movie. You don't see them all the time. It just, you know, I've never heard anybody say they hate a DeLorean. And my kids don't know how to drive stick, so I like it that way.
This is a 1954 Packard ambulance built by a company called Henny using a Packard chassis. Henny was building ambulances on Packard chassis for close to 20 years, starting from the mid-30s. This was the last model year, 54. 500 were made. They sold about 380 of them their first year, 53, but they had leftover bodies that they put the extra trim on, like these headlight trim, and they sold them as 54s. This one was bought by the National Guard, actually, in the state of Nebraska. It would have been lower priced than their long ambulances, so probably smaller cities or ones that wanted to economize on the purchase price.
So at the back, what are some of the special features where the patient would go?
Very little, really. In those days, they were get the patient to the hospital as quickly as possible. So they would have been equipped with a gurney like this one is. There would have been an attendant seat like this one has. So it's very, very basic, really.
Well, what kind of engine does it have?
It has a straight 8. Packard was still using straight 8s then. This one is the smallest straight 8 available that year. I think it's 288 cubic inches.
Is it particularly fast, being an ambulance?
No. No, even for an ambulance, it would have been slow. It's heavy. It's more than 2 tons.
Now the color isn't exactly current ambulance color.
No, no. This one is the original colors. It's been repainted, but in the same colors. Why this scheme, I don't know. But one of these same colors, Henny had it in one of their publicity brochures. So.
Now the interior is pretty sparse.
Yes, for a Packard, it's very basic. This was the bottom of the line, based on the bottom of the line Clipper chassis, functional upholstery, nothing fancy. Doesn't even have a radio.
So how was the ride?
Cushy. I mean, like you'd expect from a car of that era, not much different. Wallows a bit in curves. I mean, it's not a sports car.
Now, why did you seek this out?
What I wanted is a car that we could take long trips in the U.S. and reacquaint ourselves with the country. And turns out it didn't come back. And when I saw it, when he came here to visit, it looked so good, so original, that we just decided to keep it original. I was really looking for something like sedan delivery or a panel truck, and I found this instead.
Now, when you bring it to shows, what are the looks you get?
Retired or current first responders are probably happy they don't have to work in an environment like this.
Subscribe to our free newsletter at cruisintimesmagazine.com. More cruising ahead. Stay tuned.
Now, back to cruising.
This is my 1949 Mercury that I customized 23 years ago. I started on it. Took me 10 years to complete. It's old school. Back in my day, these were a hot item. And I decided to put one together for cruising like here today. My wife picked the colors. It took a number of years to complete, to gather up the parts and all, but it was well worth it. It gets a lot of attention.
Oh, it's absolutely beautiful. The grill is spectacular.
Thank you. That's out of a DeSoto. In fact, there's probably a half a dozen cars here. DeSoto is the grill. Buick is a side trim. The interior is from a 1965 Thunderbird. Just to start with, 350 motor from a Chevy, and the rear end is out of a Ford.
So it's like a Frankenstein.
Yeah, it was a little bit of everything, yeah.
And how does it ride?
It rides okay. The suspension is still the original. I never did change that, you know. Again, I built it as an old school car.
What was the original color?
The original color was black. And as I was building it, it sat in primer for 2 years because I couldn't make up my mind about the colors. My wife finally picked them out for me.
What's left that's original?
Well, the body itself is still an original, but everything on the body has probably been altered a little bit. You know, that's part of custom. Make it the way you want it. I got my heart and soul in it, and so I couldn't part with it.
Well, we bought this in 1981 in November. It was in pieces and it was junk. It should have been crushed. My retirement was looming, and my wife and I talked about it, and she said, "What are you going to do with it?" And I said, "Well, I'd like to fix it." And she said, "How much?" And I told her. She came back about an hour later and said, "Fix your car." And I said, "Yes, dear." But it's a resto mod. It's got an LS3. The LS3 is 480 horse. It's all custom. There's nothing, pretty much nothing on this car is original except for the hood. And I think he kept the left door skin. And it was pretty much a committee build with the family. Some discussion about the rims. They're 18s in the front, 20s in the back. And it's got some pretty healthy rubber underneath it as well. Bucket seats came out of the Jegs catalog, and had the headrests removed, and the whole thing was reupholstered. The interior also has inlaid 1957 Chevy original upholstery material that was found as a reproduction. It's been this way for 6 years.
Now what color is this? Because it's beautiful.
It's the most asked question I ever get. There is no code for it. I tell people they can call it anything they want because it's a custom mix. I have the formula, and he will never paint another car this color. So it's staying with me, and it's unique to this car.
How's the ride?
It's stiff, but it's still easy, to drive. So, and it can get out of its own way too. And I can get in trouble in this thing. I really have to watch it. So.
It is a 1960 Cadillac Series 62 convertible.
How big is it?
The wheelbase is 224 inches.
That is pretty big.
That is a big car.
Does it fit in your garage?
It does not. I have to take it to the shop.
What is it about the 62 you like?
I like the fins. I was going for a 59 at first until I saw one, but I really like the refined look of the 60.
And the convertible?
The convertible, I wanted that for a long time as well.
Does it work?
It works.
How about the engine?
Engine is a 390. The only option that year was the tri-power. This is just the 4-barrel.
How does it ride?
Hate to say it rides like a Cadillac, but it rides like a Cadillac.
How about the interior?
It's been redone. It's all red leather. It's a factory. The colors are correct. The black exterior with the red interior with the white top, that's all factory correct.
Have you really ever gunned it? How fast will it go? Because it's a big, heavy car.
It's a big, heavy car. I would say probably the fastest I've had is probably about 100.
100?
Yeah.
That's impressive.
It was
Especially
scary.
with the fins on the back.
It floats.
How about the trunk? How big is that? How many bodies?
You can fit all of them. How many do you got?
What do you like the most about it?
Just driving it, enjoying it. I love it. It's a great car.
On this edition of Off-Roading with the Rust Belt Boys, at Rust Belt Broncos here, we have an empty spot. Look at that. We got the classic black truck here It's at the alignment shop here today, and it's got its AC charge. So when that's back here, we're going to test drive it. And we have some exciting test driving on that on the next episode here when we do drive that car and then truck here and take it off road and see what it actually does. So right now we got Jimmy here. He is sorting through parts here on this, another build we're doing here. This is a 1966 Bronco here, pulling it out here, going through parts. A lot of quality stuff on here. It's a high-end truck, Coyote motor, Atlas transfer case, 8-speed transmission. Very cool. Lamborghini Grigio Titans Gray. We can't wait to get this thing running here and show how it performs here at Rust Belt Broncos. Right here at the Rust Belt Broncos shop here, we have this Ohio State Classic Enthused Bronco we're doing here. Coyote full build here, the Atlas transfer case. 5.5-inch James Duff lift kit on this. Getting ready to run here. We're trying to get ready for football season. Full custom leather interior on this build here. It's really, really badass. And if you just look at the detail work that Rick's put into this wiring on this project here, it is second to none. Even the bed liner we did on this is the Buckeye color gray. Full build here. This is probably close to a $300,000 build by the time it's done on a classic truck. So there's money out there for these. People put the money into them. And Bronco restoration, Bronco builds, they start about $100,000 and go all the way up over $300,000. Blazer builds are the same way. And we were very excited to have those Blazers coming soon. Right here is one of Rust Belt Broncos tubs here. It was probably, we sold it to a customer 3 or 4 years ago. It's back here to get refitted with a back half. In a severe thunderstorm, about a month and a half ago, a tree that was 14 inches in diameter fell on this truck here. If you look at the back end here, some of it caved it all in. The good news is none of the welds broke here. Nobody was injured on this when the tree fell on, but if it happened to the tree fell, all the Rust Belt spot welds held up. Looks really good here. You can see the dents all on top, all over there. So basically what we're gonna do is drill this apart and put a whole new back half on it, give them a new door because the door got destroyed as well when the tree fell on it. But if you look at it here, it's a quality product here we put out at Rust Belt Broncos. For a first place finish here in all your classic truck needs, your classic car needs, your classic Bronco needs, your classic Chevy Blazer needs, give Rust Belt Broncos a call at 330-533-4757, rustbeltbroncos.com.
Oh, hello, Bernie Goliath here, Chief Car Idiot, and welcome to Things to Know. Did you know that the first patent for the seatbelt was issued to Edward Claghorn in 1885? His device helped to keep people securely seated as they were taxied around in New York City. By 1922, Barney Oldfield designed a belt to help him from flying out of his racer at the Indy 500. Nash Motors was the first to offer a 2-point lap belt in 1949, and Ford offered it as an option in 1955. However, it wasn't until 1959 that Niles Boland of the Volvo Car Corporation came up with a 3-point design which secured the lap and the shoulders, and by 1962 he was awarded a patent. It's interesting to note that Volvo allowed other car manufacturers to use this 3-point harness royalty-free for the well-being of all drivers' safety. In 1968, a federal law mandated that new cars be equipped with this device. Now you know. Remember, obsessive collecting is simply selecting. Till next time, happy motoring.
Replicate a high school kid's 60s jalopy.
Welcome back to Cruising.
It's a 1940 Ford convertible. I've had this car about 10 years, but it was in a field when I dug it out of the field. It was a total rotted out rust bucket, but we drug it home and had to tear it completely apart. It took me a month to get it off the car trailer because it was rusted shut. When I seen the car, I wanted to replicate a high school kid's 60s jalopy. The kid couldn't afford nothing, no paint, just a hot rod.
This is it? You're done?
This is it, baby. I mean, I made it to the show, so if I made it to the show, it's done. No paint, no wax, no worries.
So So how long did it take you to get to this condition where you could actually drive it?
Had my knees done in May. I bought the car in December. Had my knees, when I got my knees done, this was my incentive to get, back to work. It took me about a little over a year before I was driving the car. Actually, I bought the motor as a crapshoot. I didn't know it was going to be okay or not, but the motor started right up. It sounded great. Hooked up a gas line to the tank, and I took it up the road, shifted the gears. It was awesome. It was everything I hoped for. But yeah, that's the story of it. It's been on the road now about 9 years.
Now the shrunken head.
Yes, it's not a real shrunken head, but some people think it is. I joke around that it was my ex-wife, but some people take me serious on that, so I don't want to get in trouble. I like to clown around. I can't help myself, right?
And the surfboard.
Surfboard, picked it up. Some lady was here tonight wanting to know what brand it was. It's a yard sale surfboard's what it is. She asked me if I ever surfed. I said I never surfed in my life, but I thought it would look cool in the car.
So now the engine, how fast have you ever had it? You ever floor it?
Never floorboarded it, but going with some other guys down the interstate, I would say 60, 62 mile an hour.
So what do people say when you're driving this home?
I get a lot of thumbs up with the old beast. Well, it's the only one here like this. All right, and I like to be a little bit different, but this one here is just an old high school jalopy. That's what I wanted, to take myself back to 64 when I was in high school. I couldn't afford nothing nicer than this. It come out exactly the way I wanted it. It's just an old jalopy. It's a survivor.